My name is Jerremy Holland. I'm Director of AI Research here in the Apple Special Projects Group. And I can't tell you exactly what all we're working on in our group, but we've got a lot of interesting things. Some of the things that ended up being selected for posters, so you'll actually be able to hear a little bit about it. So I'm super excited to have everyone here and that Apple is actually hosting this event. I've been going to BayLearn for a few years, and this was something that Jean-Francois and I talked about last year of having Apple host the event. So just welcome everybody here. I know that hopefully you're going to have a great day. We've got some good speakers. I'm going to go through the list of sponsors. We have a lot of really great sponsors who have helped pull this together. And one really cool thing about one of these sponsors, NVIDIA has donated a couple of Titan X Pascal cards that we're going to be giving away, raffling away. You'll hear more about that after lunch, so stick around, but that should be pretty cool. And we've got a super exciting collection of speakers today. So we've got Adam Ghazali, who's going to kick us off, and we'll talk a little bit more about him. But this is something I think we're really interested in doing. In the past, a lot of the focus of the keynote speakers has been on really deep learning and machine learning. And I think there's this really interesting opportunity to kind of really pull together what's going on in neuroscience and the advances that are going on in that space to try and tie that in with the things that we're thinking about in deep learning and machine learning. So I think this will be sort of a fascinating bit of insight into what's going on there with a focus on the brain and how the brain learns. And then we've got some other really amazing talks about scaling AI experience, at Facebook and how we actually get those experiences operating at scale. Some interesting talk from Ruslan Salakudinov, who's in my group here at Apple, also at CMU, talking about structuring memory for reinforcement learning, deep reinforcement learning. And then a fascinating talk at the end of the day about really trying to create defenses against adversarial kind of examples in machine learning. And there's some really cool examples of all of that. So in addition to these main keynote talks, we've selected some talks from the poster presentations. And I think those you'll find really exciting as well, because there's some really good stuff. A little bit of stats. So this year we had 30, or let's see, what was it? Abstracts submitted. Well, this is last year, actually. 31 abstracts submitted for all of the BayLearn conference, and 24 were accepted as posters, 7 were accepted as orals. So fast forward to this year, and it more than doubled. We had 72 submissions, and luckily we had increased the space. We were able to take on 33 posters, and again, 7 oral presentations. So you're going to get exposure to a lot of really cool, exciting ideas, really interesting research that some folks are doing, both in industrial kind of research labs as well as academia. In terms of abstracts being submitted, I think it's pretty interesting. We'll talk about the mix of folks attending here, but I think the youngest person submitting an abstract was a high school student who submitted an abstract, so that's pretty cool. And then attendance, we boosted the attendance this year by about 40%, and we still, as many of you know, had a challenge because we filled up the registration really quickly. So let's talk about how fast that works. So 2015, it was 4 hours. Does anybody remember what it was last year? We had it on a slide last year. Last year was 75 minutes. Can anyone guess what it was this year? 3 minutes? It was 4 minutes. 4 minutes. So I think that's kind of a problem. I mean, NIPS is also selling out. They closed their registration after, like 4 weeks or something, 3 weeks. So I think we have the same sort of problem. But this is something that we're actually going to be looking at for next year. I think we need to think about a different registration scheme, and we'll have to figure something out, because this isn't a great experience for a lot of people. So, but that's, it's great that there's so much interest. Even on the waiting list, there's over 800 people. So there are a lot of people that wish they could be here, and they aren't going to be able to attend. The good news is we're recording all of this, and we're going to be streaming it. There's some folks across the hall and inside of Apple, and then we're going to be posting the videos that everybody can watch after the event, hopefully within a few weeks, but we'll have to work through some of the logistics there. Okay, affiliations. Let's figure out a little bit about who here is in the room. So hopefully you're introducing yourself and meeting folks, but if you're interested in where people are from, this is kind of a word cloud that at least gives you a sense of sort of how many people are coming from which institutions. So a bunch of folks from LinkedIn, Apple, NVIDIA, Facebook, AT&T, some universities, UC Berkeley, Stanford, UC Santa Cruz. I'm a fellow slug, so that's, I'd be interested to talk to folks from UC Santa Cruz and hear what it's like these days, as there were many, many years ago. But a really good mix, I think, of industry and academia. In fact, it's about 25% from academia and about 74% from industry and about 1% from government and then one press person. Where's the press person? Right there, okay. You all know who he is. All right, well, welcome. Okay, and then what kind of titles do these people have? What are they doing? So here's just gives you a sense of what we have going on. We've got a lot of researchers, a lot of scientists, data scientists, machine learning scientists, and then a lot of PhDs, PhD candidates, postdocs, graduate students. So it's a pretty good mix. And then some, CEOs, VPs, directors. So lots of scientists and researchers and a big chunk of software engineers. So really interesting mix of folks, which I think will make the discussions exciting. And then a little bit about the Organizing Committee. So this is the group that worked on this, pulling this event together this year, and we all had a lot of fun. So I'm Jerremy. We've got a bunch of other people. Jean-Francois, you guys want to stand up and say, wave your hand? Jean-Francois. We've got Mohawk, Umesh. Where's David? And then who else? Bunny, Alexi. I missed your name on here. Didn't have a picture.
Thank you.
So the one without a picture, my fault. And then Bunny is back there. And where's Lindsay?
Right here.
Lindsay, okay. And Lindsay has done almost all of the logistics and got our team of volunteers helping out. So if this has been a great experience for you, thank Lindsay, because she did a lot of the legwork to make this happen. So thank you. And sorry, Alexi, for not getting a picture up here. My fault. Okay, so this is a group that worked to pull this together this year. One thing, we are looking for a host company for next year, and that's something that if you're interested, if you think your company might be interested, we're gonna have a process of basically pulling together a proposal, and we'll get that information out on the website, but come and talk to any of us if you have things that you wanna discuss about what's involved in hosting this event. Okay, so this is kind of what we've got planned for today. And that should give you a sense of how it's organized. We're going to basically have 4 sessions. We've got a couple before lunch and then a couple after lunch. And then the way it works is we'll have the keynote speaker first, and then in the first 3 sessions, we'll have a collection of posters that we invited people to come in and give oral presentations of the work on their posters. So those talks are going to be really great. But we'll start off with Adam Ghazali. So this is really kind of going into this kind of introduction of neuroscience and the direction that neuroscience is going. Adam is MD and PhD, professor in neurology, physiology, and psychiatry at UC San Francisco, and he's founder and executive director of Neuroscape, and he'll tell you more about that. But there's a lot of work that their research lab has done to try and understand how signals move around inside the brain with fMRI, and then also looking at how you can kind of tune and optimize the brain with, you'll hear a lot more about this, but it's basically, think of it as an electronic drug or almost reinforcement learning for the brain to get the brain kind of trained on how to be really optimized and effective. So you'll get a lot more insight into that, but I think it's some fascinating work that hopefully you folks all enjoy hearing about too. So Adam, hand it over to you.
Thank you.